OU may be 14-0 on the season and ranked number 1 in the country by a couple of different polls, but there's still the tiniest bit of divide as to what the first 3 weeks have looked like for this team. Some might say, this team better hits. They've got to be a lot better at the plate or they're going to get exposed in the SEC, and I'm just not sure if they're going to hit this year. Others have the opinion of, hey, it's a long season. They've got time. We're still good. They're 14-0. They'll come around, and this team will be where it needs to be when the season is most important. Regardless of which side you fall on, I do think that we can all agree it needs to be better than it was on Monday. The good news, OU has that opportunity this weekend. 5 of them, to be exact, as we get the final tune-up before we hit SEC play. This season is flying by, but it's been a very fun season up to this point, and this is a very important weekend to get some things ironed out for this team, especially at the plates, before a top 25 South Carolina team heads in a week from Friday. Quickly, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications. OU Softball, it's what we do here, multiple videos every single week covering the Oklahoma Sooners, so please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's preview the upcoming weekend at Love's Field for the Oklahoma Omni Classic. It looks like it's going to be an awesome weather weekend in Norman. The schedule looks like this: doubleheader on Friday, starting at 1:45 against Marshall, and then they'll play again at 4:15 against KU. Saturday will be another doubleheader, 3:15 for the first game against Kansas, and then a 6 p.m. first pitch against Marshall. And then on Sunday, OU will play Kansas City at 1:45 Sunday afternoon. So a quick preview of all 3 opponents. Let's start with Marshall, who OU will play first this weekend. 5-7 on the season, and they played a couple of really good teams. They went to Clearwater to open the season, went 1-4 on the week, lost 2-0 to Texas Tech, got run-rolled by Missouri and Iowa. They took 2 of 3 at College of Charleston. Then they went 2-2 in the Clemson Classic, where they picked up a couple of wins but lost to Clemson twice on the Tigers' home field. Picked to finish 9th in the Sun Belt this year, but their second baseman, Brooklyn Ulrich, was voted preseason player of the year in the Sun Belt after hitting .401 with 48 RBIs last season. She's definitely the player to watch for Marshall this weekend, and I would say that Marshall is the second best team the Sooners will see in Norman this weekend. A very familiar foe is on the weekend schedule as Kansas comes to town. KU is 7-5 on the season. After a 1-4 start, they lost 4-3 to Clemson to open up the season. They've lost to FAU. They've lost to Wisconsin. They've lost to Ole Miss. They lost to all those teams in the first weekend. They do have a common opponent with OU. Jayhawks won at Long Beach State as well. They won 3-2, and that's probably their best win to this point in the season. KU has lost 23 in a row to the Sooners and trailed the overall series 53-9. KU was picked to finish 9th in the 11-team Big 12 this year. 2 players to watch for the Jayhawks: Katie Brooks as a pitcher and a utility player who was voted on the preseason All Big 12 team, as well as outfielder Presley Limbaugh, who also made the list. I think Kansas will be the best team OU will face this weekend, but I have them favored slightly, and I mean very, very slightly over Marshall. I think a lot of overall talent level pretty similar between the Kansas Jayhawks and the Marshall Thundering Herd. Lastly, OU will get Kansas City on Sunday, who's 0-9 so far on the season. This is a team that's been run-rolled by UTEP, Colorado State, New Mexico State, Houston, McNeese State, and Louisiana. This is one of the weaker opponents that OU will face all year long, maybe even the weakest. But did say that about Bowling Green last week, so you still have to bring it on Sunday. Kansas City was picked to finish 5th in the 7-team Summit League this year. Player to watch is outfielder Brianna Woods, who was ranked 2nd on the team last season in RBIs with 25 and in home runs with 3. Let's get to the 3 key storylines for OU this weekend, and I don't think that this is a surprise, but I think this weekend is about offense, and I think this weekend is about attitude. First, let's talk about situational hitting, because to me, situational hitting is the number 1 storyline this week and the number 1 thing I'm looking for from this team. OU is hitting .350 this season with runners in scoring position. And you might say, hey, that's pretty good. That doesn't seem like that's a bad number. That actually seems like it's a pretty good number. That number is also 9th in the SEC right now. OU is hitting .289 with 2 outs. That's 11th in the SEC. OU has left 88 runners on base so far through 14 games. So I want to see great situational hitting this weekend. I want to see the offense just as a whole do a lot of damage, sure, and have its best weekend of the entire year. But to really narrow it down to just one or a couple of things, be great situationally this weekend. Don't leave a lot of runners on base. Keep innings going with 2 outs. Hit the ball hard, and good things usually happen. That's kind of the way it works with softball. And hey, I wouldn't even mind seeing this team use its speed even more by putting the ball on the ground with nicely placed bunts. But situational hitting, number one thing I want to see from OU this weekend. The number 2 storyline for me is kind of on the same lines of what I just mentioned with the speed. I want to see more stolen bases. OU hasn't been bad in this category. I just want to see more of it. OU has 24 stolen bases, which ranks 8th in the SEC. 24 stolen bases, and have only been caught stealing 3 times. So let's be aggressive this weekend. OU did a very good job on Monday, had 7 stolen bases on a day that opposing pitchers really try to keep OU off balance with some really slow changeups. So that if that happens again, if that's in the game plan for some of these teams, be aggressive and steal more bases. This isn't news to anyone, but this team can really run. Ella Parker is 6 for 6 stealing bases this year. Abby Dayton is also 6 for 6 on stolen base attempts. Ilana Agbayani is 6 of 8. You've got speed, and I want to see even more of it this weekend. Last one, to me, it's all about mentality this weekend. I want to see some edge from this team. I want to see a killer instinct. I want to see them just bury teams when they have an opportunity to. Yes, close games can make you better, and let's hope the Bowling Green game on Monday made this team better, and they're going to learn from those mistakes. But guys, I don't want to be in a game like that this week. I want to dominate all 5 games. And I think that this team can do that because they're a lot better than all 3 teams. So get after it this weekend. Use Monday as a motivation, and let's come out fast and let's bury some teams this weekend. When you got a 6-run lead in the 4th, end it in 5. Don't play 7. Don't give any of these teams any extra life. It's another weekend at home, so hopefully more of these players are comfortable with the crowds that are going to be very, very large once again this weekend. Let's see this team be aggressive, yes, but play a little bit more free as well. I truly believe they will, but give me some attitude this weekend. Give me a killer instinct with this squad. How about the MVP of the week? Look, I took my 24 hours to celebrate my pick of Cassidy Pickering, so you're not just going to hear me for the next couple of minutes sit here and brag about how I got that one right. No, not me. 24-hour rule. I've moved on. It's all about the next pick. But I am taking the same thought process as last week and kind of applying it to this week's pick. I took Cassidy Pickering last weekend because it felt like she was on the verge of getting hot, and kind of also the fact that this team needs her to be her best self at the plate. So kind of in the same vein, and hoping that this is the weekend where she really takes off, I'm taking Captain Nelly. She hasn't been bad this year. She's hitting just over 300 on the season, but I just think that there's so much more to Nelly than we've seen up to this point. I think that she's got a ton of power that hasn't necessarily been consistent at the plate just yet. That changes this weekend. I'm calling it. Captain Nelly is going to go off. Her best weekend in an OU uniform. Multiple home runs, extra base hits in the gap. We see it for the first time consistently this year. What we were all excited about going into the weekend. This is the weekend it gets started for Captain Nelly. After missing an entire season, she's been trying to get back in the flow of things, and now is that time. Right before conference play, when you need her to be good, Nelly has some very loud hits this weekend. She's your MVP of the week. Let's go, Nelly. All right, how about some predictions this week? And I'm just going to kind of let you know on the theme of things. I have a very similar feeling as I did going into Waco. There's some slight concerns with this fan base right now after last week, but I think that this team is going to roll out, answer the bell, and play really, really well this weekend. And I think that gets started right out of the gate against Marshall on Friday. Fast start for the Sooners. They get on the board early, and Marshall struggles to get anything going offensively. Give me OU to start off the weekend in a shutout win, 9-0 in Game 1 over the Thundering Herd. Then it's KU for the second game of the day. Guys, I think OU makes it 24 in a row over the Jayhawks, and in impressive fashion, by the way. More of the same from the offense. They come out fast, hitting balls in the gap, hitting home runs. Pitching continues to be fantastic as well. Give me Sooners 10-1 to cap off a very good and very positive day one at Love's Field. If there's a test this weekend, I think it could come on day two. 2 games on Friday, and then you get 2 games on Saturday. So that attitude and mentality that I mentioned earlier is what I'm looking for on day 2. OU will play KU to get things going on day 2. And look, I just don't think the Jayhawks have enough firepower to keep up with this OU team. I said Nelly MVP of the weekend, so let's get really specific here. I think she opens day 2 with a home run and an extra base hit. She's going to have a double as well. Really calling my shot with this one with Nelly. OU makes it 25 in a row over KU. They get an 8-0 win to start off the day on Saturday. Then it's Marshall again for the second game of the day. Again, offense is the big storyline this weekend. But I think we all feel like the pitching is going to be excellent once again. At least I certainly feel that way. Marshall just can't handle OU's arms. I don't know who can at this point. Sooner offense looks good again. Give me 8-1 win over Marshall to close it out on Saturday. And for the weekend finale, Sunday's game against Kansas City. I'm just going to be brutally honest here. Guys, I think OU needs to end this in 5 innings and leave absolutely no doubt in this game. Like this is a team that OU should handle. And I'm going to say that they do. OU wins 13-0 over the Roos to close out the weekend. They'll move to 19-0 on the season with a big, convincing win on Sunday afternoon. So I want to brag on Cyd Sanders for a little bit. I'm just really happy for her. Just really happy for her and the start that she's had so far this season. Now, I saw the comments in the offseason, even early on in the season. Some were very, very skeptical about her being the everyday first baseman. A lot of people wanted to see a lot more consistency out of Cyd Sanders. But look, she has had an incredible start to the season. Not just offensively, but defensively as well. Like, not only has she been one of OU's best hitters, she's also been one of the best players that they have defensively at one of those corner infield spots. She's really hit the ball well with a .387 average. That's second on the team right now. She's also tied for the lead in home runs with 4. She hit a grand slam on Monday. It is huge that this team has gotten the production that they've gotten from her consistently. I just really hope that she continues to have a great year. But why is this happening? Why is she having such a great start? I thought this was cool. Patty Gasso gave a theory to it on Monday.
I'd say everybody talks about her hitting, but her defense is another level, and she really worked hard when she got here. She knew she had to be a really good fielder to get on the field, and put a lot of work into that. I think Cyd looks at this as, I don't know if I'm speaking for her, but it's her senior year. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. And her body looks great. I mean, she's been really working hard to be her best this year, and right now she's really showing it.
Okay, next up is a new segment, and one of our great subscribers to this channel, Greg Webb, actually gave me this idea on Monday's show. Greg said, really liked your glass half full, half empty take. It's good to get that perspective, maybe a feature. Well, first off, Greg, I really appreciate that. Secondly, absolutely, I'll try that out. I'm always open to a suggestion, especially when it's things that you guys care about and you guys want to hear. That's why I'm here. I want to give you guys the best coverage of Sooner softball possible. So let's do that. Always open for a new idea. Appreciate that, Greg. And hey, full disclosure, you're not a bad fan if you have more of a glass half empty take right now. I will never tell someone how to be a fan. Now, don't boo your team. I might tell you then how to be a fan if you're booing your own team. But we all want the same thing at the end of the day, right? We all want the same thing. So I'm just going to present both sides here and then give my take here at the end. The glass half empty takes that I'm seeing sound a lot like this. It ain't good enough. Almost lost to a really bad Bowling Green team. The offense is in trouble, and I'm just not sure, guys, that it's going to be fixed. This just isn't the same team that we've had in the past, and I'm really worried that we're going to get exposed by the time SEC play rolls around. They haven't played anyone. They got one of the weakest schedules in the country for top 10, top 15, top 25 teams. They haven't played anybody, and they've struggled. They've got to get a lot better in a hurry, or we're in trouble. The glass half full take is sounding a lot like this. Hey, it's a long season. Last time I checked, we're 14-0. They've played some close games, but those only make you better. It's fine. I like the fight that this team has shown under adversity. And you know what? I'm confident that this team is going to figure it out. Why am I confident? Because they have an incredible amount of talent on the roster. And most importantly, they still have Patty Gasso. Of course, the GOAT is going to find a way to get this team playing its best softball when it matters most. Of course that's going to happen. It always does. Now, I would definitely lean to more of the glass half full take of things. Now, again, I think we can all agree that the offense needs to be better. But at the same time, I have multiple examples of hitters in this order, pretty much everyday starters, who have performed at an extremely high level for an entire season. Ella Parker and Cassidy Pickering last year were really good. Cyd Sanders was as well. She's come up extremely clutch multiple times in the Women's College World Series. Abby Dayton led the Pac-12 in batting average. Ilana Agbayani was top 5 in batting average in the Big 12 last year. Isabella Emmerling had an incredible season at North Carolina. That's 6 easy ones right there. All those hitters have been exceptional in the past. So why would I think that's going to be any different this year, surrounded by other great hitters and coached by the best hitting coach in all of the country? The offense is going to hit. I feel very confident with that. The offense will hit. And to be fair, they have. It's not like the offense has been absolutely terrible this year. Our standards are very, very high. I understand that. I think we all get that. And I think in time that they're going to get there. But also give this team, the 2025 team, a lot of credit for how they've performed in close games. They've had 3 extra inning wins thus far, and maybe some of you are disappointed that they've had to win 3 games in extra inning fashion thus far. They find a way to win. I love that. That's been a big part of this program for quite some time, and knowing how to win has not left this program. That's very, very important to note. And remember, we all thought that it might not be an elite softball team from game 1 until the end of the season with so many new players. We knew that this was probably going to happen, just with a ton of new players. So let's be patient a little bit. Let's let them work through it. Like last year's team. Remember that squad? Remember last year's team, the one that won a national championship? They had the 4-peat. They even had struggles last year, and their struggles were actually much later in the season. They lost a series to both Texas and Oklahoma State. They lost at home to BYU last year. Even that great team had its issues, and I remember questioning, where's the big hit like we've seen so much in years past? Softball is a game of failure. It is. Yeah, you got to respond to adversity in this game. And I cannot believe that I'm having to say this about a 14-0 team, but we know what the standard is. We know what the standard is. Teams in the past have figured it out. And guess what, guys? So will this team. Just have faith. Here's another point as to why I'm definitely glass half full with the start to this season, and I think it's been a very positive start. Let's go back to the biggest question mark going into the year. I thought it was the pitching staff, and a lot of you thought it was the pitching staff as well. Do they have an ace? Who's the ace going to be? How much pitching depth do they have? Well, here's the thing. I don't know exactly who the ace is right now, but that is actually a very good thing. I don't know who the ace is because I don't know who's better between Sam Landry and Isabella Smith. And then behind those two, KD has been very good. Audrey Lowry has been very solid, especially in relief. And so has Peyton Monticelli as well. The biggest question mark for this team has turned into the biggest strength of this team. This team can really pitch. Isabella Smith is 4-0 with a 0 ERA. Sam Landry is 4-0 with a 1.50 ERA. Kirsten Deal is 2-0 with a sub-1 ERA, 0.95 ERA. This pitching staff gets after hitters, and they don't mess around. 113 strikeouts to just 12 walks. Opponents are hitting 158 this season. That's second in the SEC. They're fourth in the SEC in team ERA at 1.38. I don't know if this is the best pitching staff in the country. I don't know that today. We probably need to see them against better offenses, SEC offense, to really have a better thought of that. But I think that they're going to be in the discussion. And for something that was a question mark just a few weeks ago, that's a pretty incredible place to be. Lastly, we're going to be talking about SEC play next week, which is crazy. So let's take a peek at what teams on the schedule are currently doing. South Carolina, they've had a nice start. They're at number 21 in D1 softball's rankings, led by former Sooner Quincy Lilio, who's been on a tear to start the year. She's hitting .587. Only Ella Parker has a higher average in the SEC. Nice start for South Carolina. They are 16-0 on this young season. Arkansas is ranked in the top 15. They're at 13 this week behind great defense and really good hitting. Hogs have the highest fielding percentage in the SEC and the second highest slugging percentage in the SEC. They're hitting .364 as a team. And I texted a friend that covers Arkansas today, and he said that series between OU and Arkansas is going to be, quote, bonkers, end quote. So get ready. Hogs are 14-1. They got a good softball team this year. Missouri is not in the D1 softball top 25 rankings after an 8-8 start, but you got to think that they're going to pack the place in Columbia and probably play their best softball when OU comes to town to Columbia very, very soon. Some new for Missouri that they got to figure out a little bit, but guess what? They'll play their best series of the year when Oklahoma comes to town. Tennessee looks good as expected. Vols are number 9 with a 13-3 record so far this year. Carlin Pickens tied the fastest pitch ever at 77 miles per hour this season. And the Vols are number 1 in the SEC in team ERA at .96. Tennessee, really, really good pitching staff. Alabama has had a tough start, still at 25 in the D1 softball poll this week. Some of you are saying, how is Alabama still ranked after a 10-6 overall record? Pitching hasn't been good. 14th in the SEC right now in team ERA, so a bit of a flip from last year, but Bama struggled a little bit in SEC play. Got it figured out once the postseason happened, but slow start thus far for Alabama. Mississippi State is in the top 20 at number 19, 13-2 on the year. 2 good wins so far for the Bulldogs over Texas Tech and Nebraska. Samantha Ricketts' team, one to keep your eye on this year in the SEC. Texas has 1 loss to Stanford, and they're at number 2 in the D1 softball poll, but number 1 in Softball America. Horns are 15-1. Caden Henry with a really nice start at the plate, hitting .490 to start the season. Don't think Texas has really shown their best just yet, but we know the talent that Texas has. They're going to be in the thick of it at the end of the season. Texas right there in the top 2, top 3, even number 1 in the poll, just as we thought. And then there's Florida, who's just hammering the softball right now. They lead the SEC in a ton of offensive categories. 18-1 on the season with their lone loss to Duke. Not an overly challenging schedule for the Gators, but we know what Florida has. My opinion hasn't really changed so far. I think it's OU, Texas, and Florida as the 3 best in the SEC. So another exciting week upon us. I hope you all enjoy the softball weekend, and as always, thank you for watching.